Dione Skyward. Dione Skyward lived on the edge of the great whispering desert, a cartographer of the intangible. Her ordinary world was one of quiet observation, of tracing the ever-shifting patterns of the dust storms that swept across the barren plains. She would sit for hours on her porch, her instruments silent, simply watching the colossal, sentient clouds of ochre and umber breathe across the horizon. To others, they were a menace, but to Dione, they were a beautiful, mysterious constant, a part of the world's deep and silent rhythm. The catalyst arrived not with a roar, but with a subtle, terrifying change. The storms, once predictable in their ancient meandering paths, began to converge. They moved with a new, unsettling purpose, coalescing into a single, monumental vortex that churned silently over the distant messes. And then, a voice, thin and reedy like wind, through a canyon, spoke her name on the breeze. "So, don't," it whispered, a plea woven into the grit. The status quo was shattered. The storms were not just sentient, they were calling for her. Her initial obstacle was human skepticism. She tried to warn the townsfolk of redemption, but they dismissed her as a storm worshipper, a lonely woman chasing phantoms. The mayor, a pragmatic man named Elias Croft, forbade any expedition into the desert, calling it suicide. Faced with their fear and refusal, Dione made a decisive choice. Alone, she packed her water and her maps, and as the sun bled into the hills, she turned her back on the town and walked into the gathering dust, answering the call that only she could hear. The complications deepened within the heart of the storm. It was not a mindless vortex, but a labyrinth of memory and emotion. The swirling dust formed visions, forgotten cities, lost faces, the collected pain of the land itself. The stakes were raised immeasurably when she understood the storm's truth. It was dying, and its death would unleash a final, cataclysmic surge that would erase redemption from the map. She wasn't just an observer anymore. She was the only witness to a coming extinction, and the only one who might stop it. The climactic confrontation was not one of force, but of communion. Dione stood in the eye of the colossal storm, the air humming with a profound intelligence. She did not fight it, she listened. She mapped its anguish, its sorrow at being perceived only as a destroyer. Using their cartographer's tools, she didn't chart its course, but instead projected her own understanding, her reverence, back into the swirling consciousness. It was a silent exchange, a turning point where predator became protector, and the storm's furious energy began to slowly, gently unravel. In the aftermath, a new equilibrium was found. The great storm dissipated not into nothing, but into a gentle, perpetual mist that settled over the desert, giving life to hard-eyed new vegetation. The people of redemption, awed and chastened, now saw the desert with new eyes. Dione returned, not with triumph, but with a quiet solemnity. She continued her work, but her maps now charted the delicate balance between the land and its ancient conscious breath, a permanent scribe to a fragile, understood peace.